There's so many back here.
Chris, you just speak and let's go across south.
This is a great victory for the accused men who simply acting in the execution of their duty, serving and protecting the society. Unfortunately, 3 of our citizens died. They were serving and protecting our society. It is a greater victory for trial by judge and jury. It is unfortunate that these men were incarcerated for 12 years waiting on trial. Call upon the authorities when police officers performing their duties, they by perchance be charged for any criminal offense, especially murder. The system must be put in place where the trials could be expedited. It's a great day for them, a greater day for trial by jury. I am very disturbed about this case, because they were incarcerated on 2 main witnesses. One a blatant liar, another a psychopath. 2 liars came forward and caused these men to be locked up and to be away from their family. So having said that, I wish them they are reintegrated to society. I wish them remain in the police service. We dedicate this victory to all the members of the police service who are decent, who are abiding, and serving the country.
Welcome to this episode of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Rondell Dono, attorney at law, and once again I'm happy to bring the law on you. You may be wondering where I am today. I am at the chambers of Mr. Israel Khan Senior Counsel, and he has basically just won a huge case, a landmark case in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, not guilty, where 6 officers were arrested on suspicion of murder, and then they were charged for murder, and of course today's verdict was not guilty. And you can of course stream us on WESN-CC as well as traditional media and podcasts with Strictly Legal with Rondell Donowa. Without further ado, Senior Counsel, good day.
Thank you for having me on your show.
And first up, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Of course, you know, this was a very long journey in your legal, well, I wouldn't say legal career, but basically within this particular case. You know, many years ago, there was a situation where, of course, 6 officers, well, 7 at the time, were arrested while performing, well, they performed their duties, yes. And it so happened that 3 persons were murdered.
Yes.
And, unfortunately, of course. Killed. Unfortunately killed, right? And of course they were arrested on charges of murder. And today's verdict, not guilty. How do you feel?
Well, it's a great victory for the officers who were simply executing their duty in protecting and serving the society. Unfortunately, 3 citizens were killed and witnesses came forward. 2 witnesses were totally false, and they were charged, committed to stand trial, and on our system of justice, a jury must decide whether these witnesses are speaking the truth. So it's a great victory for the police officers, but a greater victory for trial by judge and jury. Also, I wish this was a very complex case on the law and on the facts. Whenever police officers are performing their duties and something go amiss and they are charged, like in this instance for murder, there should be a system in place where they can expedite these matters. These men were incarcerated for approximately 12 years.
Yes, since 2011. That's quite a long time.
They had their day in court. It is morally, if not legally, wrong if you are protecting and serving the society, and in the execution of your duty, people are killed, they ought to have system in place where they can expedite these matters. There are other officers who are in the system waiting trial 5, 6 years, 10, 15 years. That really erodes the presumption of innocence. It's a mockery. The criminal justice system was on trial here today, not only the officers.
Now, why was this process so long?
Well, first of all, the DPP is understaffed. Secondly, we had COVID, well, it's 3 years. And I don't think the administration of justice is really flowing smoothly because there are a lot of undercurrents in the judiciary. But the judge indicated that it is not statute bar if you take so long once they could get a fair trial. But it is unfair to these men, unfair.
Now, walk through the process. I know you indicated that, I mean, this was the jury, or rather the judicial system was on trial. These men were arrested, they were charged.
Yes.
They were obviously in remand.
Yes.
There were a number of legal challenges.
Yes.
I would assume were there a number of legal challenges. Inclusive of one of the accused who had turned state witness.
Yes.
I know that in your summing up, you know, you would have used very strong phrases.
Yes,
addressed to the jury. Yes. Strong phrases in terms of to describe the uncooperativeness of this witness. But in your estimation, of course, you know, you would have had a team of attorneys who would have worked assiduously to ensure the outcome. Is it anything that you would have done differently?
Not really. What happened, it took about 2 or 3 years for the preliminary inquiry to be completed. Then the case was sent to the assizes, and then we had the COVID for 2 years. Then let us give them 3 or 4 years. It ought not to have taken 12 and 13 years. They're in the system. The DPP is understaffed, the short staff, and he had to really retain a special prosecutor. This case was a very complex case. It's one of the most complex cases I have done. I have done a lot of murder cases, and it was very complex on the facts and the law, a lot of law involved. I don't wish to burden the public with what is Rochester and all these things, but it was very complex. Fortunate for us, we had a very knowledgeable judge, a very experienced judge. We had Mr. Peterson prosecuting, very independent and very fair. And we completed the case in about 8 weeks, which is very good.
Yes, it was indeed.
But it's something which should not repeat itself. You cannot ask police officers to go out there and protect and serve the society. And if something happens and witnesses come forward, maybe the witnesses speaking the truth, maybe they are lying, and they are charged for murder in the execution of their duty because the criminals are shooting at police and police are protecting themselves, somebody may die. You ought to expedite the matter. Also, most of all, if a police officer in executing his duty is killed, there should be a system put in place whereby compensation will be paid to his immediate family. His family could be taken care of. You cannot ask police officers to go out there, arrest the criminals, bring them to justice, as the Prime Minister has indicated, and you're not protecting the police officers.
But what would you say in terms of abuse of process? Because we will have seen abuse of duty.
Yes.
We would have, witnessed. We can't turn a blind eye to the fact that, you know, some police officers have basically abused their authority, rather, in the execution of their duties. And how does one measure that balance of whether you are executing your duties fairly and whether you are using excessive force? In this instance, it was 3 persons were killed.
Yes.
Looking at the victim side of things.
Yes, well, sure. We have to think about the victim side of it also. You see, we have laws in place for that. What will happen you could have an inquest instead of having a charge of murder, and have an inquest to ascertain whether they abuse the power, whether excessive force has been used. But when there is a shootout, police don't agree among themselves if there are 6 of them and they're shooting, and the people are shooting them. You fire 5 shots, you fire 4 shots, you fire 6 shots. If instinctively you do what is reasonable, that is self-defense. But in this case, the witness came forward and indicated that the police fire at the vehicle with the people in the car, and they had indicated, today you're dead, indicating, expressing the intent to kill without justification. Well, maybe that witness speaking the truth, maybe he's lying. Well, he was exposed because unfortunately for him, in this case, there was an audio-video recording close to there, and it recorded everything. And we didn't put the accused in the box to give evidence. We said we have an independent witness. And the judge was watching me strange because we didn't give evidence. We called no witnesses. And he said this witness is independent, impartial, he's objective, he's dispassionate, he's not taking side. And when she's looking at me, I told the jury, his name is Mr. Video Recording. And then we played the video, and he realized that when this witness gave evidence, he was lying. The investigator in this matter had that recording. He should have brought it to the attention of the Director of Public Prosecution. I know this man is deliberately lying, and maybe they could have had an inquest. The person who turned the witness, she was originally charged. She decided to save her own self. And she came up with a story that 2 persons survived, and they went down in some truck and executed the other 2. Maybe she's speaking the truth. Maybe she's lying, but she said in her evidence that one of the officers who executed these people received a phone call. Yeah. And they received a phone call from the sergeant who was involved with them, and he said to finish them off. The police had a number of the sergeant, and a number who, they said they never checked to see whether there's a conversation. They never checked to see whether this woman is lying. And there's a lot of loopholes. A lot of loopholes. When somebody comes there are many cases in the past where a person who participated in a crime will turn state witness and try to save themselves. But the criminal justice system, first of all, I look at a show recently, yes. And I believe murder should be categorized into 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree murder. And I am not so much with the death penalty still.
Of course.
But if a man takes a fee to kill someone, could he be reformed? I do not know. And he kills somebody wantonly. Should they have 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree murder, have bail for 2nd and 3rd, and let's expedite these cases.
But can you say, for instance, I know on a former, when on the last episode actually, we discussed the case of this unique matter where one Mr. James would have been yes. accused of, well, he would have been convicted
yes.
of murder.
Yes.
And basically it appears as though he has been reformed throughout his time in prison yes. or throughout his time on death row. Yes. So there can be arguments for that reformation. Of course, I mean, I know it's a unique situation, but generally, can a murderer be reformed?
Yes, yes, because in his case, I know about that case, he was an accomplice. He didn't actually kill the man. And I think they killed him, the taxi driver, for his mag wheels and so on. And the co-accused struck him in his head with a hatchet and all these things. But he served 30 years in prison. He served his time. See, whether we believe in Hobbes or believe in John Stuart Mill, I don't believe man is innately evil. I believe he could be reformed. He could be reformed. And I think he is reformed. I think if he is not, well, what can we do?
Now, one may say, in this instance, you would have represented or defended police officers.
Yes.
But on another hand, you would have represented civilians,
yes,
right?
Yes, yes.
Against police killing.
Yes.
You know, of course, well, obviously, I mean, non-police officers there.
Yes, yes.
Now, in terms of understanding the duty that you have as an attorney at law,
yes,
and of course as a defense counsel, I mean, a lot of the public of the view that, you know, why are attorneys defending criminals?
Yes.
But the onus is on the prosecution, not so to prove their case.
Yes. Well, I specialize in capital offenses. I have done over 300 murders in my 44 years of career. There's a presumption of innocence. The prosecution alleges and the prosecution must prove. And it must prove to the satisfaction of the jury, a jury trial, that the jury, in their conscience and their heart, are satisfied to the extent they are sure that the person committed the offense. And this is the system we have. When God confronted Cain, who killed Abel, he ran an alibi. He said, I'm not my brother's keeper. And our system of jurisprudence comes from the Judeo-Christian principles. And a lot of people do not like lawyers. They're defending criminals. They're on the criminal side. Well, let's not have a trial. Let's just take them to the square and execute them. You must have a trial. And you must bring forth the evidence. What really is happening with the society, because the criminal elements seem to be running havoc in the society and people are scared. But we ought to have a trial and we ought to have due process.
And then due process means obviously having a fair day before the court.
Yes.
As well as the not having a delay
yes.
in the justice system.
Yes.
Now let us speak to delay. I know there are many factors, as you said, there were
yes.
COVID and all these
yes.
different things, but in terms of legislation, or in terms of legislation that has been improved, but to some extent, with respect to preliminary inquiries, can you
yes.
just state whether preliminary inquiries are still effective?
It's still there,
still
but
there
we
in the
have paper
books?
committal now. Well, first of all, the first thing that the government of the day must do, they must understand that the Director of Public Prosecution Office is constitutionally protected. He's in charge of all criminal proceeding and prosecution. He must, that office must be properly staffed, must be properly protected. More resources placed into that department. We, the corrupt police officers who could be corrupt out of the system, have better detection skill. Have experienced judges, impartial judges, and if the prosecutor who is representing the state is not evenly matched in experience and competence with the defense attorney, it is not evenly balanced.
Do you believe that accounts for many numerous not guilty verdicts?
Yes, and poor investigation, and then you see. Our society persuaded by the attorney, the advocates. And if they're not evenly matched, the system is not working. And they got to be evenly matched if the proper wages or salaries make it attractive for the young lawyers to enter the DPP department. Fortunately for us, in this instant matter, we had a very fair judge, an impartial judge, a knowledgeable judge, and a very good prosecutor, Mr. Peterson, one of the best criminal lawyers we have in the country.
And the judge was Justice Carla Brown Antoine, who's well experienced and versed in the criminal jurisprudence.
Yes, and incidentally, she has been elevated to the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
And this trial prevented her taking up her position. So now that this trial has been completed, we understand she's going to the Court of Appeal.
Oh, congratulations to her.
Yes, I told her congratulations.
Indeed. Obviously, the 6 are now freed men.
Yes.
I know that you were before the Hall of Justice earlier
yes.
in the day at that
yes.
time. What was the feeling like for the accused who are able to go home?
When you go to
take
prison,
a fresh bath, meet their family, loved ones,
yes,
eat their favorite meal.
But when you go to prison, your background and culture comes out in you. If you're a Christian, you find one day at a time, sweet Jesus. and the whole have done that. If you're a Muslim, inshallah. If you're a Hindu, you know, my karma. These fellows were locked up. They had one Muslim, 2 Hindus, and 3 or 4 Christians. They obey all the prison rules, police officers, and they improve themselves while they were in prison. They do a lot of courses and so on, and it's just prison and so on. And they just believe in themselves, like James. You have my body, but you do not have my mind. I like that expression that you use, that he was able to live through this thing. Well, these officers did the same thing. They are men with family. They are little boys who grew up in the society. They have this strength of character. So they are very happy. They are elated. We never give up on them. They never give up on us. They were frustrated we couldn't get a trial for them. You know what it is to spend 4,022 days in prison?
That's a lot of time.
When you get up in the morning, you're eating the prison food, you sleep on the bed, you're isolated from your family. You have to have a strong character. But both leaders with Mandela did it. And these officers were trained, they're very disciplined. They are very happy. They're blessing the respective gods. They are Jesus oriented. All things work for good for those who love the Lord. That's what the Christians are saying.
Yes.
And the Muslim, inshallah, karma, and all these things. So they hold on to the religion. It's a good thing we recognize the supremacy of God in our. Incidentally, I am an atheist. I don't doubt God exists. I don't believe there's a God, but I don't doubt he exists. I render unto Caesar the thing that belongs to Caesar. I deal with the law of the land. You are presumed to be innocent. You have to prove that I am guilty. And the evidence must be cogent, compelling, and convincing that there must be no reasonable doubt. When a jury says not guilty, that doesn't mean to say you're innocent. It means to say that the state has failed to prove that you're guilty. But if you are guilty and you're acquitted, you'll still have to answer for this. You'll have to answer for it.
Yes. Now, you mentioned something interesting, that you don't subscribe to religion, or you're not. You know that there's something there, yes, obviously. But I do note that I noticed that you had a chain around your neck that signified
a mala.
Yeah, a mala.
Yes.
What does that signify to you?
Well, what happened is when we came out, up till now I do not know who put the mala around me. That a lot of people did. They put one around myself, or around Skerrit, my associate.
Oh yes, I did see a few of them. Okay, so it was persons who did that.
Maraj, they give her a rose. You see, these people are spiritual. They go to the spiritual leaders, they pray and so on, and they pray for and ask guidance to protect the lawyers and let them say the right thing in court and so on. So if they believe in these things, we won't ward them away. Well, you know, the attorney at law, these bands represent the tablets that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai. These are the 10 Commandments. We believe in a lot of things, like dying declaration. I wouldn't lie on anyone when he's about to die. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So we are steeped into the religion. So my name is Israel. My mother gave me that Christian name because she became a Pentecostal, but she come from the Tamil side of her people. She is what they call untouchable. And she married my father, who is a Muslim. That's her name, Khan. Yes. And then I have Raja. So I have Israel, which is Christianity, Raja, Hindu, and Khan, which is Islamic. And when I was growing up, I have to go to all the mosques, I have to go to this. I had too much religion.
No.
But it's so weird. That's why Daniel's name is Ishmael. Yes. My name ought to be Ishmael. I gave him the name. He accepted it. One of my sons named Kareem, the other named Jamal. So, but we are not Muslims. And they went to Catholic schools.
Catholic schools. and that's the beauty of our society, in that you can have a church, a mosque, and a mandir in close proximity to each other, and yet there's some level of respect.
Yes.
As we know, Israeli only politics divide the nation.
Yes.
Most times.
Yes.
All the time, actually.
Yeah. I live on the foothills of St. Augustine of Santa Margarita, and I could see the St. Joseph mosque.
Yes.
And then I know where my wife taught for many, many years at St. Joseph Convent, I could still see there. And I didn't know there's a Hindu temple. And I remind myself that this society is such a beautiful society. Look what is happening with Israel and Hamas and so on, and all these things. This is a beautiful country. It's only they have to have control of the criminal elements. It's a beautiful country. We should have more trade schools. And the wealth must be evenly distributed. I don't want to get into the politics, but nothing has changed from slavery to now. The people who run in this country rule in the interest of the parasitic oligarchy. They always rule that the government may go, government may come. And the poor people, the impoverished people, is the one who have to carry this strain. This ought not to be so. And the crime situation is totally out of hand. We have to have more trade schools. We have to have the parents taking hold of the... If you see your son come in with jewelry, and more, you will know if you grow up in a society, the type of jewelry Indians wear, like the bearer with it, so on and so on. You know they didn't purchase this thing in somebody. You do not condone that. You speak to them. Try and assist. So the crime is totally out of control. Totally out of control. It could be a failed society in relation to that. But we live in a beautiful country. We live in a country where every religion is respected. Look at Diwali. No one and I go to an Indian movie. Just recently I went to see Tiger Tree, and I went there. And I was amazed to see so many Africans. They went to the movie and tell me I was something wrong. And then when what going on? Somebody told me that and laugh until the girls and them, they look at this movie like how the guy dance, and they have it now in English subtitles.
In subtitles, yes.
And the society, the pan, the singing of parang and all these things, is a beautiful society.
Now, in terms of your mentorship, I mean, I know you are a senior counsel for many years.
Yes.
Since I've known myself, I've known senior counsel Israel Khan.
Yes.
And obviously, many of your mentees, I mean, are now senior attorneys,
yes.
right? And the team that worked with you on the case, can you just describe how that team felt or how that team worked? How were you all able to stick together and for the long haul? Particularly when you have other type of cases to deal with, you have other murder trials. I mean, you are representing in one aspect police officers, and then in another aspect a normal civilian.
Yes. Well, what has happened, we gel very well. Like Mr. Skerritt and I have been working for many years, 15 years representing police. He was a former police, so he understands the working of the police service and so on. Young Arisa Maraj, she's only about 3 years, my secretary daughter and so on. And we just gel together, and they're attracted to criminal law. But talking about my personal development, I was trained by a senior lawyer called Dr. Wills and Teddy Guerra. You might have heard that name.
Yes,
one of the best cross-examiner in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, my style of advocacy is not orthodox. I use a lot of colloquial expression, I use body language, I understand the society, eye contact. No,
but senior, what you will get away with a junior like myself wouldn't.
Well, no, eventually you'll only right to misbehave. You only right to misbehave. Yeah.
Some judges are just like, you know what, senior counsel, you just do what you have to do.
Advertise. I advertised openly when I couldn't get cases. I defended a man who thought he was chopping up a lagahu, and everybody laughed, and he was acquitted. You see?
So what was he chopping up then?
He was chopping up a human being who came into his gallery, allegedly to rape his daughter, and the girl cried out, "There's a lagahu in the house." That was some years ago, and he just got a cutlass, ran after the man, and the man ran behind a fig patch, and he started to chop the man. And the man had on a crocus bag, and he was the day before Christmas. He must be having a few punching in his head, and the man must have, and they acquitted the man. So he thought he was chopping up a beast, and it was a mistake of fact. He ran something mistake of fact generally, and the jury acquitted him. Now they believe I made up that defense for him. I didn't make up that defense. He went and he told the police that.
It's always interesting in terms of folklore. I mean, it's almost as though you say you're going to chop, you thought it was a larger breast. Let's put it that way, and you chop up a larger breast. Yeah. How can the court weigh fact and fiction in
the judge was laughing, and then when he realized he running mistake of fact. I know a young lawyer chopped a bull that attacked him, and he runs self-defense. So what self-defense is usually when somebody attacking you and not an animal and so on.
Right.
The law is very complex, but people really are not too fond of lawyers. They believe we defend criminals and we manipulate the law and we exploiting the system. That is how we are making our living, but they don't criticize doctors when or anything. They don't do that. There are cases that you could, as an attorney, you realize that you just can't decide you're not defending a man.
And there's a duty according to our act. Yes.
You prove your case. But I think the society will come along once we control crime. They are very, very concerned. And we must control crime. We have to control crime. Now,
many persons may ask or will state that you know your client guilty, therefore why are you defending them?
Yes.
And of course there's a misconception that a lawyer knows that if the accused will tell them that they committed that offense. I mean, that's how do we dispel that?
Well, that question usually come on exam for ethics and advocacy. And I teach at the law school, and I've been teaching there, making a contribution for the past 34 years and so on. The first thing is that the society must understand you cannot judge. You represent the person, he's presumed to be innocent, the state must prove that he's guilty. What you must not do is put forward a false defense. What you must not do is suggest someone committed the offense if you know that the accused might have committed the offense. He might have killed somebody, but he might be suffering from diminished responsibility, and that reduced murder to manslaughter. He might kill somebody, and he understand that he was provoked, that he lose control of himself, that reduced murder to manslaughter. Like rape, he might honestly believe that the young lady was consenting, because in the United States, you remember Mike Tyson?
Yeah.
The lady went up in his apartment. If that case had tried in Trinidad, then no way Mike Tyson would have been convicted. So if you really believe so, it's certain defenses that you will have. And it's a system we are dealing with.
How hard is it to prove insanity?
Well, it's very difficult to prove insanity in that it's presumed that every human being is sane. And you have to show, like if somebody is babysitting, and these are cases in England I know about, and they take the little child and put it into the fireside, and they thought they were putting a log into the fireplace. I defended a man who killed his wife at UV days to take cocaine. And he got up in the night, and when he looked on the bed, he believed it was a big mackerel snake. And what he did, he got a chopper. He started chopper on her neck. It was at UV, and he killed her. Alice Oxford, and I did that case. And I did another case in San
What was his fate?
Well, they convict him for diminished responsibility and send him for a number of years. But we did another case. You might have known about this case, so your parents might have told you about it. Going by the bypass in San Fernando, a man chopped his sister's neck off, threw her over a banister, went and he took a knife and he slit her from her vagina right through, pulled out her spleen and started to eat it and so on. And they said this man is insane. And our defense was devil possession, because his son was studying to be a minister at Marcus and so on. The man was a loving man, and so on and so on. Now, first of all, the people start to laugh, right? The jury. If you're a Christian, you will know you cannot really be a Christian, believe in a God, the devil exists. And if Christ cast spirits out of a man and sent him down and so on, so it is there. In the United States, they call it devil possession. The judge didn't want to think about devil possession. That is setting a precedent, because you can't say the devil possessed me. And so on. And I being an atheist, I talk about devil possession. So there are a lot of cases that we would have done, which is strange to the country. But eventually, I do not know whether God exists. I do not know whether there's a devil. I do not know. I know there's evil. There's good. So this is how the society operating, and that is how it's unfolding.
The Home Store turn your house into a home you love. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. And just for you this Christmas, come check us out for great gift ideas and all your Christmas decorations. 6 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at West Mall, Pennywise Plaza Chaguanas, C3 Center Branch, Christmas Store at C3 San Fernando, and Eastgate Mall, Trin City. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love. It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics. Gather your family and tune in to WESN from December 1st to 31st at 8 p.m. nightly for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Only on WESN, Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
I mean, I know we were speaking about the fact that how can we distinguish religion from, I mean, as you said, well, the out-of-body experience, and of course the court only recognizes the defense of the diminished responsibility and insanity, right? But outside of that, then what happens? It's basically a guilty or not. Well,
we did with Caesar's law, and Caesar doesn't recognize that. The law of the land, but a lot of these youngsters sometimes they're hallucinating, they're on cocaine, sometimes some of them subnormal, and how they're behaving, we think that something is wrong out of body experience, but the law is not accommodating that.
But we are reference, and obviously we do not subscribe to the U.S. Jurisprudence.
Yes.
However, in the U.S., the law is evolving to a point where it's I wouldn't say it's insane, but it has encompassed the evolution of society.
Yes.
In terms of Trinidad and Tobago's legal our laws, there are a lot of laws that need to be reformed.
Yes.
Particularly in a criminal jurisdiction.
Yes.
Now, like for instance, murder, hanging, death. There's a serious issue as to whether or not that should be removed from the books because it's not being practiced. And why is it that we are sort of tiptoeing around the issue? Or not advancing the issue of just abolishing the death penalty.
Yes, but on the last program that you and Daniel Carnell discussed that, if you see, stranger that is, once you are convicted for a capital offense, murder which carried the death penalty, if the prisoner is not executed, the condemned man is not executed within 5 years, the Privy Council decided that you cannot execute him.
Yes, we discussed, yes.
It and so on. And the system is bogged down. You really can't do it within 5 years. And the people who say keep the death penalty, they say they do not wish to follow the Privy Council, because the Privy Council and their jurisprudence there for 400 years, they endorse and they recognize slavery. And then one day they just get up and say, you know, these people are human beings. Slavery is illegal. So what is convenient to them, they implement. That the greatest drug pusher they have in the Western world is Britain. The amount of opium they pour into China. 40 million Africans were enslaved by Europeans, and they didn't see that as being wrong. They used to hang people for pickpocketing and so on. So people are moving away from that and saying that we should have our own jurisprudence in relation to how we develop in the society. You see, the law, man was not made for the law was made for man. How do you regulate the society? And we are getting there. But back to the criminal elements in the country, the society is really not concerned with the dispossessed and the downtrodden. It's only when something happens, then they are concerned.
Do you do, I mean, as you said, the dispossessed, the downtrodden, do you do legal aid work, or do you do pro bono services?
Yeah, I do a lot of pro bono work. As a matter of fact, I was the chairman of the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority for a number of years, and you do not enter these chambers and practice criminal law unless you're prepared to do about 20% pro bono work. You have to. I come from a working class background. My father was a taxi driver. I grew up. I was not expecting to be a professional person. My mother was the strength of our family, and she pushed education and pushed education and pushed education. And we do a lot of pro bono work behind the scene, so I represent people.
What age you became an attorney?
At 32, because I did a first degree in Toronto. My parents and them already, just before 1970, that is so-called Black Power movement. The East Indians, and they were just getting out of the society. They went to Canada and so on, and from there I did political science first of all. And I was attracted to law because after passing the exam, I got a job at the magistrate court right around there taking notes for the magistrate.
Yes.
And I became attracted to it. But I never expected to be a professional person. Never.
And a household name,
well,
basically.
Well, it seemed to be destiny. My mother pushed me. She pushed me. Like, and Happy Daniel did law, the other one didn't do law, but he is more on his mother's side, he's too mild.
Well, at least you have continuity in Daniel, and there was, he's doing criminal law rather than going into corporate and
and he was inspector of prison and all these things. So he's making his contribution in his own way.
And of course, even as an attorney, being, well, at least training to become an attorney, you know, it was always stated that in order to be a great advocate, you have to do criminal law. Criminal law, I mean, that is where you start your advocacy experience.
Yes, and you have to understand the man on the block. When I order a man say, a man put a couple of stones in Trinidad, you think it's 2 stones he's talking about? A couple mean about 10 for him, and so on. So you have to understand the language, you have to understand why they react, the way they do things, and so on. Like Wesley James, I could understand, I really know about that case. I had studied that case inside out. They just saw the man Magwales, and the other guy wanted the Magwales, and he just went along foolishly. That man was brutally murdered, you know, with a short sledgehammer, struck him on his head, brain scatter, threw him over the hill. And look how he was totally reformed. I liked him when I saw the show. He started to sing and so on. I said, but he completely reformed. But I don't think he gave you the full picture, because he would have had books to read while he was there and so on. In the condemned cell, even if the prison officer smuggled things for him and so on, he would have had that. Yeah. I remember my friend Andy Johnson, not Andy Johnson, Thomas. He was a Omewale. He was the Black Power movement and Abu Bakr and so on. When I visited them there, they had literature and so on and all these things, but a serious thing to being condemned, you know. Serious thing.
It is.
But I hope that you do another show with him and he'll reach out to the young people. The government should give him a job to speak to young people and tell them, look, I could make it. We could make it if we really try. And speak to them.
Black Stalin.
Yeah.
We can make it if we try.
Yeah.
But just before we wrap up, in terms of young attorneys being called to criminal practice, I mean, I would have asked that question before, but from your perspective, how can young attorneys be attracted back to the criminal bar? Because we're seeing the way they are all moving away into corporate civil work, and the criminal bar, I mean, the government as well has provided incentives. Even legal aid has increased fees for attorneys who are desirous of doing the criminal bar, but yet they are not attracted to it. What are your thoughts?
They are not attracted to it because you're in the bowels of the society. You're representing not the good, you're representing the bad and ugly. And sometimes, even if you come from a working class background, they're indoctrinated to being able to hold the right knife and fork, to eat a type of food, to dress a certain way. All they want to do, the younger lawyers, is get in massa house and ape massa. They are not attracted, really, to justice, to fair play, to representing the downtrodden. There's few people enter the criminal arena. And the Criminal Bar Association is trying to tell them that they owe the society something. Because every one of us here who become attorney at law, either our father or great-grandfather was a slave or indented, or either we come from master side, mix up and so on. So we're all in this system together. So let's see how we could represent these people. And you can make a decent living off of it. You don't have to fraternize with the criminal elements and so on. It should guide them. But as I told you, I am at the law school for a number of years. They are attracted really to the suit, the nice clothes. They won't buy a hop spread and put. They want to go buy Adams and have, you know.
And then we look at cost of living. I mean, a lot of attorneys, they want nice things.
Yes.
And obviously, you work so hard, you know, to be poor.
Yes, well, if you read Animal Farm, and you would have done Animal Farm.
I did that for literature, actually.
Right. You see, I tell you lawyers, all lawyers are equal, but some are more equal
than others. Yes.
And these things will come. It will come. But take time, hasten slowly. But they are not really attracted to criminal law. They don't. To begin with, they won't go to prison and see the clients there. Their minds are turned off. It's a bourgeois profession. And they train them to be that way. You must speak a certain way, you must dress a certain way, and you must associate with a certain set of people and so on. So if they are indoctrinated to behave that way, eventually they will be the leaders of the society, you know. They will be the Attorney General, they will be the Prime Minister, they will be the Chief Justice, and they will have serious clashes with the proletarians.
Be out of touch.
Yes. So we are hoping to instill some sort of a sense into their head, but very difficult. Yesterday, 86 attorneys were admitted to practice, and today, 70-something. And when you look at them, they are 24 years of age, the average. Some of these ladies who've been admitted, they can't even boil 2 eggs because they're protected and so on, and they're being pushed into that. And I don't think the profession are saturated. Many will be called, but few are chosen. There always are people who could function. But being an attorney at law is not necessary to go into criminal law. You could do other things. But a lot of people believe in it. We have too many lawyers.
Yeah.
And it could be, but I wouldn't say so. We have too many lawyers.
Because you often wonder, where do they go after they've been called? Where?
Well, what happens, some could represent the country as... I don't think we have a place for them, but they will have to find banking or some sort of thing. What we need is trade schools. A lot of trade schools, carpentry, masonry, plumbing, and all these things. And those who can't really make it into being an attorney at law or an engineer or something, and they absorb these people and recognize them. You know what it is if we do not have people to pick up the garbage in this country? This country will come to a standstill. So everybody has a role, and the garbage man must not want his son to be a garbage man. He must want his son to be either a teacher, a doctor, or a lawyer. Everybody must have an opportunity. So, yes, we have too many attorneys. I must reluctantly agree. But then they will say, you and I saying that because we're attorney and we all know.
Indeed. Mr. Khan, you know, life, I mean, obviously life goes on. You have been successful. This is a huge case, as you said, in your 30 odd years, plus years of practice, 44 years of practice. In 44 years, this has been the most complex case ever in your career. How long do you think again you're going to, are you going to retire anytime soon? Or?
No, I am pre-retirement mode, but when I get up in the morning, what am I going to do?
That's the thing with us attorneys, you know. Go on a cruise.
Well, I made up in such a way, like I think I may not teach law. I like to be around young people. They have bright ideas. That
makes you stay young.
Yes, these lawyers who come out are brighter. You can't mislead them, you know. They will get information right away. But some of them cannot apply the legal principles to the facts and so on. But they will get there. They're very bright. We have a great future in this country with the young people. The young people will take this country forward. We don't have a religious conflict. We have no racial conflict. We have no real political conflict in this country.
I would say it's only when, I mean, and with the greatest respect, I think it's only when you just say something in the media and it just run with it and then it becomes controversy.
What have I a way of provoking people?
Yes, yeah. I was saying that, I was actually saying, I can't just like to provoke people, you know. I don't think provoke conversation, you know, meaningful conversation, that is.
Well, I grew up that way, like when Camille Robinson refer to Kamla with the Indian name and I say, well Camila, I know her. So what's wrong with you? And I told her, I show that on your identification card you do not have black, you have dark brown. And she said, what? I said, check your identification card. And I said, what? I said, well, why you say that? I said, because you're oriented a certain way. And I see nothing wrong with your name, but you have to be proud of your name. But I hope that the children and grandchildren have a nice African name. Why are you telling the lady about this name and name and name and name and name? And she said,
that's
well,
Pekong.
Yeah, it's Pekong, but some people could take it, some cannot
Indeed.
take it, you see. Cannot take it. Look at this leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister can't get together and talk about crime. Just talk about it, get together, talk about it. The people are crying out, you know, they're really crying out.
And at the end of the day, we hope justice prevails for all, and that, you know, that the society gets better. That's all we can say.
We'll get there. When I see how many young people beating pan, how many young people, when I watch at the Diwali, look how many hundreds of young East Indians involved with the culture, dancing, singing, beating drums. The Africans must do the same thing. They must get their roots. They will get together, do the belly dance, sing the calypso, and so on. Because if one tribe progresses too quickly, another Rwanda could happen here. In 90 days, they kill 900,000 people. I wouldn't say it will happen here, but both tribes must have a stake in the society. Like when they have presenters on show, I watch all these things, you know, who are presenting, who are not presenting. When I go up to the airport, who's seen about the tickets? When I go through there, who are the security guard? My big problem in this country now is that the armed forces are not represented by the other tribe. That must not be so. If this is a cosmopolitan nation, why do they have so many East Indian doctors? Why? Where are the Africans? Long ago, why are so many East Indian lawyers? But that balanced though. We know what we're crying out now for? Balanced. How come there are so many women?
Yes, I know the ratio is quite large, yes.
Yeah, because they are developing faster than the men. I do not know whether they will carry about and go and practice law and so on. But we are getting there, we are getting there, we are getting there.
Mr. Khan, thank you so much, Abid. I don't know if you want to say anything further. Of course, congratulations on your victory. This is the crux of the case. I mean, I know hopefully that this is the last of that type of case.
Because the bandits and the criminals will always shoot at the police. You cannot ask police officers to go there and put their life on the line, and if they're being shot. But some will.
But there must be a balance of duty. There must be. We cannot deny that fact.
Yeah. But we are getting there.
Mr. Khan, thank you so much.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus.
Sweet Jesus. Thank you so much. All the best.
Okay, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you, guys. Here you have it, exclusively on WESN Content Capital. Israel Khan, SC, Senior Counsel, Attorney at Law, speaking about his recent victory, as well as sharing light moments in terms of his life, his career, and advice to the nation. Previewing once again, have a blessed day.
WESN.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Jack Warner's wife reportedly to face judge in CONCACAF lawsuit. Report on Paria tragedy set to be disclosed soon. 2 women robbed in Movietown car park. And internationally, 3 people have been shot dead in Jerusalem after 2 attackers opened fire at a bus stop. Now for the details. Despite attempts to avoid it, Maureen Warner, wife of Jack Warner, is set to face a judge in a $37.8 million lawsuit brought by CONCACAF. The lawsuit involves the ownership of Dr. Joa Haviland Center of Excellence, with Mrs. Warner and 2 family companies joining her husband and others in the legal battle. They sought to dismiss the lawsuit, arguing no fiduciary duty and statute-barred claims dating back to 1995 to 2011 when the lawsuit was filed in 2016. Commission of Inquiry Chairman Jerome Lynch Casey expresses confidence that the report on last February's tragedy at Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited's point-of-care facilities will be disclosed. Lynch shared this optimism during the final virtual hearing of the Commission on Wednesday, just before handing over the 380-page report and an associated hard drive to President Christine Kangaloo.
The first sitting was on the 7th of September of 2022. I apologize for having failed you in that regard, as the burden of the material to be considered burgeoned well beyond what I had anticipated.